Good evening, everyone. Welcome again to another live streaming of tax training. And I would like to say thank you po sa ating mga subscribers. Ilan na yung subscribers natin, Hari?
20,420.
Thank you very much sa ating 420 subscribers. No? Thank you very much for your support. And continue lang po tayo dito sa tax training, and our aim here is for you to have a better tax compliance. So maayong gabi sa mga taga Cebu at saka Mindanao, no? Maayong gabi kaninyong tanan. Sa mga Ilonggo po natin na kababayan, maayong gabi sa inyong tanan dyan sa ating mga kamag-anak sa Canlaon, no? Negros Oriental. Sa father ko, si Priano Cañete, sina Emily, no, mga kapatid, pamangkin, no, good evening sa inyong lahat. Sa mga Ilonggo natin, maayong gabi sa inyong tanan. Sa mga Kapampangan natin, maayop na bengi kay Kungan, at sa lahat-lahat po ng kababayan natin, gandang gabi po sa inyong lahat. No? Our topic tonight is about tax updates. Actually, dapat nung Martes pa to, no? Our tax updates is on VAT. Meron po tayong bago na Revenue Regulations 8 and 9, 2001. And then yung sa excise tax, RMC 75-2021, paano gamitin yung 0605 na form in the payment of your excise tax liability. And then yung mga requirements po sa application ng bagong tax treaty benefits. No? Ito guide lang natin sa inyo kasi napakahaba po ng tax treaty requirements, no? RMC 77-2021, kakaroon tayo ng separate na video on this. Pero since tax updates tayo ngayon, sabihin lang po namin sa inyo na mayroon tayong mga bagong requirements to avail of the tax treaty benefits. No? And then itong enhanced deductions under the CREATE law, ang pinagmulan po dito is the CREATE law. Meron po itong implementing guidelines at hindi pa po siya final. Pero pagbasihan natin yung ating CREATE law, may mga sinasabi na po doon na mga expanded benefits para sa enhanced na deductions, no? Allowed para sa mga business enterprises. Shout out, Hari.
Good evening po sa mga viewers. Shout out po kay Ma'am Lilian Yao. Good evening daw po, ma'am. Pati din po kay Rodora Constantino. Good evening daw po. Shout out din po kay Chin Chin Japin. Good evening daw po sa lahat. Shout out din po kay Jonaline Bonlang. Pati po kay Raiches. Good evening daw po, ma'am. And maayong gabi daw po, ma'am, sabi ni Aldeno Sambo.
Maayong gabi.
Apo.
No? Sige.
Si Righteous Ma'am from Iloilo City daw siya.
Oh, maayong gabi.
Apo, shoutout din po kay 969 Cager from Pasig. Good evening daw po.
Okay.
And good evening din daw po sa lahat, sabi ni Miss J. Pati po kay Ma'am Eugenia G. Magnaye. Good evening daw po. Sila pa lang, ma'am.
Okay. So umpisa na po tayo sa ating tax update. No? We'll start with Revenue Regulations 8-2021. Pakita mo sa kanila, Hari. Okay, so naka-flash na po sa inyo sa screen natin. Yung Revenue Regulations 8-2021, this is dated June 11, 2021. Ito yung nag-amend ng Regulations 4-2021 na nag-implement ng value-added tax at saka percentage tax provision ng 11534 o itong CREATE law. No? So ano pong sinasabi dito sa amendments dito sa 8-2021 na to? Section 2, subsection 4109 is hereby amended to read as follows. Ano sinasabi niya dito? Provided that beginning January 1, 2021, the VAT exemption shall only apply to sale of real properties not primarily held for sale to customers or held for lease in the ordinary course of trade or business, sale of real property utilized for socialized housing. Ito po kasi yung pinag-aawayan palagi ng examiner at saka ng seller pag nag-process na po ng capital gains. Why? Kasi outright, pag nagbenta na ng property and over 3 million na, under the classification of the land is industrial, so sasabihin na, or commercial, sasabihin na subject na kaagad sa VAT. Pero one-time transaction lang yun ng seller. No? So, sinasubject na kaagad sa value-added tax. No? So, diyan talo yung examiner palagi at saka yung seller, no? So anong sabi dito? Beginning January 1, 2021, the VAT exemption shall apply to sale of real properties not primarily held for sale to customers. So not primarily held to customers, iisa lang yung property mo, no? Yung residential property mo naging commercial, binenta mo. Not primarily held for sale to customers or held for lease, paupahan. In the ordinary course of trade or business, sale of real property utilized for socialized housing. Yung mga socialized housing pero may threshold dyan, hindi rin siya subject sa VAT. Under Republic Act 7279 as amended, and sale of house and lot and other residential dwelling with selling price of not more than 2 million. Ito yung selling or limit, no, ng house, ng lot, no, 2 million. Okay. So yan yung dati. With adjusted selling price of not more than 2 million as adjusted to 3,199,200 in 2011 using the 2010 Consumer Price Index values, provided that every 3 years thereafter the amount stated herein shall be adjusted to its present value using the Consumer Price Index as published by the Philippine Statistics Authority. With the intensified campaign of the government to inoculate the population aimed at achieving herd immunity and to require the use of medical-grade personal protective equipment or PPE components as a protection against COVID-19, there is a need to facilitate the early release of the imported items. Section 2, subsection 41091 BPBB of RR 4-2021 from the Bureau of Customs. Ito yung mga importation ng mga gamot na para sa COVID-19. No? The importation of items under 1, 2, and 3 hereof shall not be subject to the issuance of the authority to release imported goods or ATRIG. Ano po itong ATRIGs? Ito yung advance payment po ng mga importer, no? Kukunin nila itong authority to release imported goods sa BIR and then bayaran nila, no? Under Revenue Memorandum Order number 35-2002 as amended and may be released by the Bureau of Customs without the need of an ATRIG. Kasi yung kanilang mga imported goods doon, kung wala yung ATRIG or authority to release goods na kukunin nila sa BIR pero magbabayad sila ng VAT, hindi yun i-release sa kanila ng customs. So, pero kung itong mga ginagamit sa COVID-19, pwede kahit walang ATRIG, no? The exemption claim under this subsection shall be subject to post-audit by the Bureau of Internal Revenue or the Bureau of Customs. Post-audit na. So, i-release muna, saka pa lang imbestigahan. Excess percentage tax payment as a result of the decrease of tax rate from 3% to 1%. Ito na yung clarification dun sa nagbago yung rate ng percentage tax from 3% naging 1% na. No? So, starting July 1, 2020 until the effectivity of RR number 4-2021 may be carried forward to the succeeding taxable quarters. This carryover portion is intended for percentage taxpayers, ito na, who are regularly filing their returns and are expected to have overpaid taxes as a result of retroactive application of the rate. Bakit sila naging merong overpayment? Because nagbayad na sila ng 3% when in fact nag-retroact ang create law noong July 2020, when in fact, during that time, yung mga taxpayers nagbayad na ng 3% percentage tax. Na ginawa ng create law, ginawa niyang 1%. Okay. Taxpayers who are regularly filing the returns and are expected to have overpaid taxes as a result of the retroactive application of the create Tax refund, however, is still allowed in the event that the taxpayer shifted from VAT to VAT. Ito, pwede ka raw na hindi na carry over, pero i-claim mo siya ng tax refund kung halimbawa nag-change ka into VAT status. Why? Kasi hindi mo na magamit yung percentage tax payment mo. Hindi mo na ma-carry over kasi wala ka nang babayaran na percentage tax, VAT na. So, hindi mo magamit yung overpayment mo na percentage tax dun sa VAT. No? Or, the taxpayer has opted to avail of the 8% income tax rate at the beginning of taxable year 2021. Or, nasa 8% option rate ka. Ano ba yung 8% option rate? Ito yung you opted to pay the 8% in lieu of the percentage tax and income tax. The 8% represent 5% for income tax and 3% for percentage tax. So, 8% yan. Eh, dapat naging 6% na yan kasi 1% na lang ang percentage tax. Pero hindi. Option yan. So, 8% option rate, yun ang pinili mo. So, hindi mo magamit ngayon yung overpayment mo dun sa percentage tax, no? Pero mali ito eh. Kasi kung beginning taxable year 2021 ka na, hindi mo nga magamit kasi yung 2020, percentage ka pa, 3%, no? Pero doon lang sa July to December ka nag-overpayment. Pagdating ng January 2021, wala na. Okay. Section 32B of RA 4-2021 is hereby amended to read as follows. Percentage taxpayers who have overpaid taxes as a result of the decrease of tax rate from 3% to 1% starting July 1, 2020 until the effectivity of RR number 4-2021 are allowed for a tax refund in the event that the taxpayer shifted from non-VAT to VAT registered status or the taxpayer has opted to avail the 8% income tax rate at the beginning of taxable year 2021. So those are the two instances wherein the taxpayer can claim refund of the overpayment of percentage tax. No? Yung dalawa na yon, yung nagiging VAT na siya instead of non-VAT, so hindi na niya magamit yung kanyang percentage tax payment carryover, so kailangan niya mag-claim for refund. Also, the taxpayer opted to avail the 8% option rate starting 2021. So, saan siya may overpayment? Doon lang sa July 2020 to December 2020. So, hindi na niya magamit yun. That's why pwede siyang mag-claim for refund. No? So, yun po yung sinasabi ng 8-2021. Ano naman sinasabi ng 9-2021? Ito yung amending provisions of Revenue Regulation 16-2005. Ito yung implementing regulations ng Republic Act 9337, no? Ito yung batas 9337 na dati 10% yung VAT, ginawang 12%, no? At ito din yung batas na nagsabi na yung gagamitin ng taxpayer na resibo, official receipt, and sales invoice, no? Okay. As amended by RR 13-2018 and further amended by 26-2018 to implement the imposition of 12% VAT on transactions covered by Section 106. No? So ano itong mga inamend ng 9-2001 na to? No? Okay. Section 2. Transactions that are now subject to 12% VAT. The conditions required under the proviso of Sections 106A2A and 108B of the Tax Code 1997, yan yung mga provisions na yan, provisions po yan ng value-added tax. As amended, have been fully satisfied. Hence, in accordance thereto, the following transactions that were previously taxed at 0% shall now be subject to 12% VAT. Ito yung dating zero-rated na mga transactions, ngayon subject na sa 12%. In short, hindi na sila zero-rated. Subject na sila sa 12% VAT. Those transactions considered as export sale under subparagraph 3, 4, 5 of Section 106A2 of the Tax Code of 1997 as amended to wit. Number 1, sale of raw materials or packaging materials to a non-resident buyer for delivery to a resident local export-oriented enterprise to be used in manufacturing, processing, packing, or repacking the Philippines of the said buyers goods unpaid for in acceptable foreign currency and accounted for in accordance with the rules and regulations of the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas or BSP. Anong nangyari dito? The transactions are considered as export sale, no? So ano pag export sale? Zero rated siya, no? Pero anong sabi dito? The following transactions were previously taxed at 0%, ngayon subject to 12% VAT na. Ano pa? Sale of raw materials or packaging materials to export or oriented enterprise whose export sales exceed 70% of total annual production. No? Okay. Those considered export sales under Executive Order Number 226, otherwise known as the Omnibus Investment Code of 1987 and other special laws. Letter B, the sale of services and use or lease of properties under subparagraphs 1 and 5 of Section 108B of the Tax Code. Number 1, processing, manufacturing, or repacking goods for other persons doing business outside the Philippines which goods are subsequently exported, where the services are paid for in acceptable foreign currency and accounted for in accordance with the rules and regulations of the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas or BSP, Section 108B1, and services performed by subcontractors and or contractors in processing, converting, or manufacturing goods for an enterprise whose export sales exceed 70% of the total annual production. Okay, so yun po, subject na sa 12% VAT. Amendments. Subparagraph of Section 4106, DAS 5 and 4108-5 of RR 16-2005, amended by 13-2008 and 26-2018 are hereby renumbered, and shall be read in the following. Ito na yung zero-rated sale of goods or properties, no? Section 4106-5. The following sale by VAT-registered person shall be subject to 0%. No? Ito na yung mga bagong zero-rated sale. A, export sales. No? Pag sinabi mo export sales, shall mean the sale and actual shipment of goods from the Philippines to a foreign country, irrespective of any shipping arrangement that may be agreed upon, which may influence or determine the transfer of ownership of the goods so exported, paid for in acceptable foreign currency or its equivalent in goods or services, and accounted for in accordance with the rules and regulations of the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas or BSP. Number 2, the sale of goods, supplies, equipment, and fuel to persons engaged in international shipping or international air transport operations, provided that the goods, supplies, equipment, and fuel shall be used exclusively for international shipping or air transport operations. Exclusively for international shipping. Kasi pag ginamit mo yan dito sa Pilipinas, magiging hindi na siya zero-rated. Okay. The sale of goods, supplies, equipment, and fuel to persons engaged in international shipping or international air transport operations is limited to goods, supplies, equipments, and fuel that shall be used in the transfer of goods and passengers from a port in the Philippines directly to a foreign port, no? Kasi kung dito siya sa port sa Philippines, tapos hinatid siya sa another port still in the Philippines, hindi siya zero-rated, no? Directly to a foreign port or vice versa without docking or stopping at any other port in the Philippines unless the docking or stopping at any other Philippine port is for the purpose of unloading passengers and or cargoes that originated from abroad or to load passengers and or cargoes bound for abroad. Provided further that if any portion of such fuel, goods, supplies, or equipment is used for purposes other than that mentioned in this paragraph, such portion of fuel, goods, supplies, and equipment shall be subject to 12% VAT. Pag hindi na siya kinonsume abroad, na-consume dito siya sa Pilipinas, then magiging subject siya sa 12% VAT. Letter B, sales to persons or entities whose exemption under special laws or international agreement to which the Philippines is a signatory effectively subject such sales to zero rate, no? So, yun na yung may batas na talaga isa-subject siya sa zero rate. So, zero-rated sales siya. Section 4108-5, ito namang yung zero-rated sale of services, no? These are transactions subject to 0% VAT rate. Kanina, sale of goods yun. Ngayon, sale of services. No? So, ano itong mga services na subject to zero rate? Number one, services other than processing, manufacturing, or repacking rendered to a persons engaged in business conducted outside the Philippines or to a non-resident person not engaged in business who is outside the Philippines with the services are performed, the consideration for which is paid for in acceptable foreign currency and accounted for in accordance with the rules and regulations of the BSP. Number two, services rendered to persons or entities whose exemption under special laws or international agreements to which the Philippines is a signatory effectively subjects the supply of such services to 0% rate. Number three, services rendered to persons engaged in international shipping or air transport operations, including leases of property for use thereof, provided that these services shall be exclusively for international shipping or air transport operations. Thus, the services referred to herein shall not pertain to those made to common carriers by air and sea relative in their transport of passengers, goods, or cargoes from one place in the Philippines to another place in the Philippines, the same being subject to 12% VAT under Section 108 of the Tax Code. And another, number four, transport of passengers and cargo by domestic air or sea vessels from the Philippines to a foreign country. Gross receipts of international air shipping carriers doing business in the Philippines derived from transport of passenger and cargoes from Philippines to another country shall be exempt from VAT. However, they are still liable to a percentage tax of 3%. Ito naman yung parang percentage tax para sa transport of passengers. No? Number five, sale of power or fuel generated through renewable source of energy such as but not limited to biomass, solar, wind, hydropower, geothermal, and steam, ocean energy, and other emerging sources using technologies such as fuel cells and hydrogen fuels, provided, however, that zero rating shall apply strictly to the sale of power or fuel generated through renewable sources of energy and shall not extend to the sale of services related to the maintenance or operation of plants generating said power. So ito yung mga sale of power generated through renewable sources of energy. No? So ano sila? Zero rated pa rin. Okay. So, nakadalawa na tayo, yung 8-2001 and then the 9-2001, yung mga amendments about value-added tax, no? On the zero-rated sale of goods and zero-rated sale of services. No? And then we have also the Revenue Memorandum Circular 75-2021, ito yung paggamit ng Form 0605 pagka nagbayad kayo ng excise tax nyo. No? Ito yung mga advance payment. So when you use BAR Form 0605, ano yung itik ninyo doon sa form? Yung tax deposit or advance payment. No? Yan yung nasa field number 17 ng BAR Form number 0605. Yan po yung ilagay ninyo na classification na kung ano yung binabayaran ninyo. Excise taxpayers under the non-essential services for cosmetics procedures should use BAR Form 2200C. Ano tong non-essential services for cosmetics procedures? Ito yung bago lang na sinabject sa excise tax noong panahon lang ng train law. No? Kasi dati itong cosmetics services or procedures, hindi to subject sa excise tax. Since nakita ngayon na napakamahal na mamayagpag ang mga dermatologist ngayon, itong mga nagbibigay ng mga ganitong klaseng services, so sinabject po sila sa excise tax on top of the value-added tax. So may excise tax na, may value-added tax pa. Okay. So ano gagamitin nila ng form? BAR Form 2200. Excise taxpayers using BAR Form 0605 naman, paying deficiency tax should take the preliminary final assessment or deficiency tax. Ito yung mga kulang yung binayad nila. So, deficiency tax po ang tawag dyan. Anong itik nyo naman? Preliminary final assessment or deficiency tax na box, no? To classify properly your payment. Payment for administrative penalties must take the other specified box under the voluntary payment of the manner of payment, field number 17 of the BR form number 0605 and indicate to the box provided administrative penalties. No? Kasi ang 0605, that is a payment form. Marami pong gamit yan. Pwede sa penalties, pwede dito sa deficiency taxes, pwede rin dito sa advance payment. No? So, general purpose po yan na form pagdating sa payments. Yan po yung 0605. At dyan din tayo nagbabayad ng ating registration fee every month. So, lahat ng penalties dyan din yung ginagamit natin na forms. Okay? So, kailan yan effective? March 2 pa, 2021, no? Okay. And then, meron pa palang isa dito, yung 76-2021. Ito yung clarification ng example sa computation ng corporate income tax, no? So, anyway, yung una pa, meron na tayong mga ano dito yung sample, no? Na papaano natin gamitin or impose yung gamitin yung train law, yung create law pagdating na sa corporate income tax, no? Ang ginamit nila dito ratio na yung taxable year 2022, taxable year 2023, no? Kasi itong create law hanggang 2023 lang naman to. Hanggang 2022 lang, no? Pagdating ng 2023 balik na naman sa dati, no? Okay. So, yun yung 76-2001. And pahapyaw ko lang po sa inyo itong Revenue Memorandum Circular 77-2021. Ito po yung mga requirements when you want to avail of the tax treaty benefits. So, nakalagay po dito ang mga forms, may mga annexes po itong regulations na to, kung ano yung mga checklist of requirements, kung anong klase ng income yung ina-applyan ninyo for tax treaty benefits, no? So, elaborate po natin itong 77-2021 sa separate video po natin, no? Shout out, Harry. Bago ko sabihin sa inyo yung about incentives naman po.
Shout out po kay Lot Gracela. Good evening po daw. Good evening din daw po ma'am, sabi ni June Garcia. Pati po kay Estela Bestor, good evening daw po ma'am.
Yes.
And shoutout din po kay Malu Sintos, good evening daw po. Pati po kay Ma'am Bernadette Lonon, good evening daw po ma'am. Sila pa lang po.
Okay, ilan yung ating viewers?
23 po.
Okay, so shout out po sa mga viewers po natin, no? Tonight, yung ating tax update, no? Tax update lang pero parang ano lang siya sa atin, yung summary, no? Kasi hindi natin siya i-discuss in detail. Why? Kasi magkakaroon tayo ng separate na explanations dahil mahaba ito at saka ayoko yung masyado kayo na mix up. Parang reminder lang sa inyo na ito may mga bago tayong mga ganitong klaseng regulations that you have to be aware. At if you want to know more about it, basahin po ninyo at nandyan lang po siya sa ating BIR websites, no? Yung isang ibibigay ko sa inyo dito, yung mga expanded, no? Or extended na mga benefits or deductions na pwedeng, additional deductions na pwedeng i-claim ng isang business enterprises, no? Although, sabi na natin, this is just an implementing regulations pa, hindi pa ito final, pwede pa siyang magbago. But, since nanggagaling ito doon sa create law, posible na yung mga procedural lang yung babaguhin, but the rates, hindi na kasi nandan yan na po sa batas. Okay? Ito yung tax and duty incentives, no? Section 2, siya, Hari. ng tax and duty incentives. Ito yung Rule 2, tax and duty incentives. No? And then, sa Section 3 po niyan, Hari, nandyan yung enhanced deductions. No? Ito yung gusto ko lang i-highlight sa inyo. Yung enhanced deductions para sa business enterprises, no, na pwede niyong i-avail. Although, napakarami pong mga benefits dito po sa Create Law na hintayin na lang natin yung final na IRR or implementing regulations para accurate natin yung discussions kasi it might change, no? So, nandiyan na? Section 3, enhanced deductions. Nandyan?
RMC, ano ba yun?
IRR.
Yung IRR.
IRR ito ng Create Law.
Section 3, ma'am, extent of authority.
Hindi. Section 3 siya, enhanced deduction under tax and duty incentives under Rule 2. May Rule 1, Section 1. Rule 2 siya. Kita mo?
Rule 2.
Sa part 2 siya
Dito naman, enhanced deduction.
Rule 2, tax and duty incentives. Tapos Section 3, enhanced deductions. No, sige. Sige, para makasabay sila. No, this is the implementing regulations of the Create Law at nandito yung mga enhanced deductions that can be claimed by business enterprises, no? So, registered business enterprises may be granted enhanced deductions in addition to the allowable ordinary and necessary deductions under Section 34A to J of the Tax Code. Itong Sections 34A to J of the Tax Code, meron po tayong 6-day webinar for accredited tax agents. I-discuss natin doon yung mga ordinary and necessary deductions kasi para din yan sa mga accredited tax agents na nagpe-prepare ng mga financial statements and also nagpe-prepare ng mga income tax returns. No? That's why i-discuss natin what are the allowable ordinary and necessary deductions under Section 34A. On top of the Section 34A, meron pa tayo under IRR na Create Law, itong enhanced deductions. Alam nyo, meron tayong seminar bukas, no? 2 to 4, yung basic principles of transfer pricing. Ilan na yung nag-register sa atin, Hari?
Kung check mo kayo na 76.
Yun yung huli mo. Pero siguradong nadagdagan na yan.
Check ko rin.
No? So, i-discuss natin yan sa yung accredited tax agent natin, that is a 6-day webinar. May fee po yan, that is 3,000 pesos for the 6 days, 500 a day. No? Pero bukas, yung ating basic principles in transfer pricing, wala pong bayad yan. That is a free webinar. No? Kung gusto nyo umattend kayo. Why? Because if you are a tax practitioner at hindi nyo alam ang transfer pricing, parang kawawa kayo. Kasi bakit? Transfer pricing is already part of our tax system. So, pag hindi nyo yan alam, parang hindi kayo tax practitioner, no? And it is free, no? Free yan. Ang mahal-mahal po yan. Naaral natin yan sa abroad right now. I'm enrolled with the IBFD. Alam nyo, kung mapapansin niyo yung mata ko ngayon, laglag. Laglag po siya talaga dahil when I started taking the examination doon sa IBFD, that is the advanced Advanced Professional Certificate Program in International Taxation. Ang dami-dami pong readings. No? Laglag talaga yung mata ko, but wala akong magawa. Why? Because I have to pass the exam para ma-certified ako. Why? 100,000 po ang tuition fee. No? Webinar pa yan. When I took the first time, no, at my own expense, nag-aaral ako ng international taxation, and that was transfer pricing in Kuala Lumpur way back in 2008. Magkano po yung gastos ko doon sa 2 days lang na seminar sa Kuala Lumpur, I spent 200,000, no? Kaya nga ang daming nagrereklamo sa akin, why is it na binibigay ko yan as free, no? Bakit? Ang mahal-mahal niyan, bakit binibigay mo yan na free? Binibigay mo na nga na free, ang dami pang umaayaw kasi hindi daw nila alam, hindi daw applicable ang transfer pricing dito sa Pilipinas. No? Hindi lang tayo nag-aware ng transfer pricing kung hindi na Senate inquiry ang ABS-CBN because of the issues of transfer pricing. No? Kaya let us be, as tax consultant or we are offering tax services, let us be proactive. Hindi yung sasabihin natin, ay hindi yan applicable sa akin. Wala akong mga clients na ganyan. Tapos tatawag sa akin, ma'am, may client ako na ganito, foreign companies, anong gagawin ko? Oh, it's too late, no? That's why we should be proactive. At saka international na tayo ngayon. You should know international taxation. Yung mga tax treaties, dapat alamin natin yan. Kasi pag tanong kayo, ma'am, magkano yung babayaran foreign corporation? Consult the tax treaty. Hindi ka pwede magsabi na, 30% yan, 25% gross, ganun. Wala yan kasi may tax treaty po tayo. And we have tax treaties in 43 countries. No? So, proactive po tayo. Dito sa enhanced deductions, kaya nga yung nasabi ko sa inyo, I'm preparing for the seminar bukas kasi since nga yung before the COVID, ang dami na namin mga seminars, hindi na siya pwedeng i-conduct. Why? Kasi some of the modules hindi na rin applicable at saka bagong normal na tayo ngayon. That's why i-align din po namin yung mga modules namin dito sa mga bago, no? So what I'm doing is in-upgrade ko yung mga PowerPoints, no? In-upgrade ko yung PowerPoints. And then, doon sa para bukas na basic transfer pricing, lahat ng mga background information about the arm's length principle, kung ano yung mga legal basis, kinuha ko lahat. And then, meron akong mga original source materials, no? Meron akong biniling libro from the OECD mismo, yung Model Tax Convention nila. Bumili talaga ako niyan. Papakita ko yan bukas. No, kaya ko lang to sinasabi sa inyo just to relate. Kasi IRR, itong pag-usapan natin. I'm very, very parang active talaga ako doon sa or excited talaga ako doon sa seminar bukas. Kasi ko siya in-upgrade ko or in-update ko talaga. So, yung isang source ko is the IRC or the Internal Revenue Code of the US. Kasi kinuha ko doon yung Section 482, which is the legal basis of the of transfer pricing or the transfer pricing law in the US na kagayang-kagaya ng transfer pricing law din dito sa Pilipinas. Binasa ko yung tax code. Ilang volumes yan? 14 volumes yung tax code nila. Yung sa atin, isang ganito lang. Yung sa kanila, 14 volumes. Alam mo, ang nakita ko, yung kanilang mga sections, nakalagay din doon ang mga amendments. Kailan siya, itong section 482 halimbawa, kailan siya nag-umpisa na section, tapos ito yung mga amendments niya. Kaya, hindi natin na nakikita sa ating tax code, no? Walang nag-initiate na gawin yan sa tax code natin. Bakit? Yung section lang makikita natin. Pero yung mga amendments na halimbawa, kagaya ng VAT, nag-umpisa ang VAT, no? Ako kasi sinubaybayan ko yung VAT, diyan ako nag-umpisa na maging speaker ng BIR sa VAT. Nag-umpisa ang VAT ng Executive Order 273 noong 1988 under President Cory Aquino. Tapos nagkaroon siya ng mga amendments, no? Yung mga major amendments niya, Republic Act 7716, mga 1990s yun. Tapos yung 2005, major amendments din niya, yung Republic Act 9337. Tapos ito na, no? May mga train law na, create law. So kung sana mayroong nagtatyaga diyan sa ating tax code na lahat ng mga amendments brought about by those laws naka-incorporate dyan sa ating tax code. Ang problema, wala. No? Kaya tutuwa ako sa tax code ng US, the IRC nila, nandoon. So, hindi ka mahirapan. Kailan to huling inamend? ano yung mga unang amendments, ano yung mga wordings nung una, tapos pagdating ng ganitong batas, anong ginawa niya, anong dinagdag, nandiyan lahat, so hindi ka maliligaw. No? Pati yung kung kailan nila dinagdag yung batas nila about intangibles in relations to the section 482. Ang galing. Alam nyo, kaso lang, I'm already 64. Sabi ko, pwede kong gawin yan sa tax code natin dito sa Pilipinas. Oh? God's will, kung may lakas pa. No? Pwede po natin gawin yan. Ang maano ko lang talaga dyan, yung VAT, kasi talaga sinubaybayan ko yan. Pagdating sa income tax, I will use references. Although, sa mga tax cases natin, since 1901 na nag-umpisa po yung BAR, meron na po ako, pina-research ko yan sa UP, ginastusan ko po talaga yan. So, since 1901 na mga tax cases, nandyan na, iumpisa ko yan, na ipasok ko na tax trivia dito po sa tax training. Just to make tax information na parang also parang learning and also fun, no? Parang nakakatuwa siya kasi ilagay natin na para mga tax trivia. Kasi ready na ako, may source materials na ako. So, yun yung nakita ko na isang dapat gawin sa ating tax code. No? Kasi hindi mo siya makita, yung mga amendments, hindi mo makita sa tax code. Kung ano lang yung mga, pag tiningnan mo nga yung ibang mga tax code, hindi pa nga naka-incorporate yung create law. No? So, dapat, ilang sections lang ba naman yan, no? So, sabi ko siguro, gastusan mo lang din talaga ng mga researchers, no? Gagawin mo by tax types, no? So, yan po. Itong mga additional na enhanced deductions, pag titingnan mo yung ating tax code, wala to doon, no? Kaya, kailangan may initiative ka na mag-research para malaman mo and then you can enjoy these enhanced deductions. Oh, okay, sige. Implementing regulations po to, sabi ko sa inyo, pwede pa itong magbago, pero sa procedural, but as to the tax rate, hindi na, kasi provided na ito ng create law, no? Republic Act 11534. No? So, ano po itong Section 3, enhanced deductions? Ito yung mga allowed as deductions. No? Letter A, additional depreciation allowance. No? Kasi di ba may depreciation allowance na tayo? Ano yung basis ng depreciation allowance natin? Cost. No? For tax purposes, cost talaga po yung basis natin. Kasi even if may appraisal increase, may appraisal value pa, may increase in fair value yung assets, hindi natin pwedeng gamitin yan. No? So, additional depreciation allowance of the assets acquired for the production of goods and services, qualified capital expenditures. No? So, additional depreciation daw. From the total depreciable cost of the assets that are directly related to the registered enterprise production of goods and performance of services, qualified capital expenditures, a registered business enterprise may be allowed to claim an additional depreciation allowance of 10% for building, 20% for machinery and equipment. No? So, halimbawa, yung equipment mo is 1 million. So, halimbawa, vehicle siya. So, 1 million divided by 5 mo, 5 years mo siya depreciate. So, magkano yung 1 million divided by 5? 200,000 a month. Under this create law, may 10% ka for building and may 20% for machinery and equipment. So, magkano yon? Yung 20% ng 200,000. So, may additional 40,000 ka for the year. No? Kasi additional na 20% na depreciation expense yung pwede mong i-claim. So, ganun po ang computation. Letter B, additional deduction on labor expense. Ano yung labor expense? Ito yung sa mga binabayaran mo sa tao, no? Registered business enterprises shall be entitled to an additional deductions from the taxable income of 50%. Ang laki. Kasi ang depreciation, 10 and 20 lang. Dito naman, 50% of the total labor expense in the taxable year. The additional deduction shall not include salaries, wages, benefits, and other personnel costs incurred for managerial, administrative, indirect labor, and support services. Administrative, indirect labor, support services, ng salaries and wages, benefits daw ng other personnel cost for managerial, no? Hindi siya kasama. So, ano lang? Labor expenses in the taxable year. No? So, plus 50%. No? So, kung plus 50% yan, kung 100, plus 50%, 50. No? Plus 50. Letter C, additional deductions on research and development expenses. Itong research and development expenses sa ibang bansa, this is a major expense. No? At ngayon, dito sa Pilipinas, ganun na rin because just like pharmaceutical companies, requirement na talaga sa kanila na meron silang research and development at saka yung sinasabi nila na clinical research, no? Yung proof na pag nagbenta sila ng gamot nila, may napagaling talaga yung gamot na yan, no? So, registered enterprises shall be allowed to claim an additional deduction of 100%, doble, on the research and development expense that are directly related to the registered project or activity of the entity and shall be limited to local expenditure incurred for salaries of Filipino employees and consumables and payments to local research and development organizations. So, local. Pag abroad na siguro, hindi nakasama. No? Letter D, additional deductions on training expense. No? So, training. Sa training tayo. Kaya, alam nyo, ayusin natin yung training natin na hari kasi talagang may future yung training natin. Why? Kasi allowable expense talaga siya ng mga companies at saka requirements. That's why ang gagawin natin really to update or upgrade our training programs, no? So, registered business enterprises shall be entitled to an additional deduction from the taxable income of 100% of the total expense on trainings conducted as approved by the IPS based on the SIPP given to the Filipino employees engaged directly in the registered business enterprise production of goods and services. Ano yung IPAs? Implementing agencies, no? Ano yung SIPP? Tingnan natin dito. Ang IPA is Investment Promotion Agencies, no? SIPP, Strategic Investment Priority Plan, no? So, yung Strategic Investment Priority Plan, sino ang nag-implement yan? Of course, the government, no? So, nasabi niya dito, registered business enterprise shall be entitled to an additional deduction from the taxable income. So, kagaya din ng research and development, 100% din siya. So, doble. Of the total expense on training conducted as approved by the IPS based on the SIPP given to the Filipino employees engaged directly in the registered business enterprise production of goods and services. No? To ensure that only technical trainings are covered, the following shall not be covered. Onboarding workshops for newly hired employees. Ano yung onboarding workshops? Parang trainee sila, no? Sa newly hired employees, hindi daw yan kasama. Team building activities, field trips, and tours, hindi rin kasama. Executive education and leadership program for senior management and C-suite, hindi rin kasama. Professional legal trainings such as sexual harassment, discrimination, and fraud, di rin po kasama. No? Although tayo, may mga fraud tayo na training that were conducted. Safety training such as evacuation plans, fire drills, workplace violence, and first aid. Other safety trainings that are directly related to the performance of core job functions may be covered by the incentives as long as it is part of the technical training program. No? So yan po yung hindi kasama. So, ano na lang ang kasama? My goodness. So, kailangan yung training mo, hindi kasama dito sa 1 to 5. No? Okay. And 1 to 6. Quality training such as ISO, processes and standards that are not related to the performance of an employee's core job functions. Kasi itong ISO nagre-require din to ng training. So, hindi rin pala siya kasama. Additional deductions on domestic input expense. Siguro ano mga kasama dito? Yung mga risk management, siguro kasama. No? Kasi hindi naman siya kasama dun sa 1 to 6. Additional deductions on domestic input expense. Ano yung domestic input expense? The registered business enterprise shall be allowed to claim an additional deduction of 50% on domestic inputs that are directly related to and actually used in the registered project or activity of the registered business enterprise. So, hanapin natin yan, ano yung domestic inputs na yan, no? Additional deductions on power expense. Magkano naman? 50%, no? So, power expense. Power cost utilized for the registered project or activity. Deduction for reinvestment allowance to manufacturing industry. Ano yung reinvestment allowance? Reinvestment of undistributed profit. Kung mapapansin ninyo, under the CREATE law, wala na po yung improperly accumulated earnings tax wherein yung earnings ng company dapat i-distribute mo sa mga shareholders. Ngayon, pwede na kahit gaano kalaki yung written earnings ng company, pwedeng hindi na nila i-distribute, hindi sila improperly accumulated earnings tax, no? Undistributed profit. So, encourage na ngayon yung mga profits na i-reinvest sa company para gamitin niya at hindi ipamimigay sa stockholders, no? So, the reinvestment of undistributed profit or surplus of a registered business enterprise engaged in manufacturing in any of the projects or activities listed in the SIPP shall be allowed as a deduction to a maximum of 50%. So, dagdag from its taxable income within a period of 5 years from the time of such reinvestment. No? Okay. Enhanced net operating loss carryover. Ano tong operating loss carryover? Siyempre, ang daming nalugi during COVID, no? So, normally, yung net operating loss carryover is good only for 3 years. But because of this COVID, no, na happenings, from 3 years, ginawa na nilang 5 years, no? So, you can claim the net operating loss carryover for 5 consecutive taxable years. No? Okay. Okay, so yun lang po yung mga enhance. Kasi ito, marami pa to. About the incentives, may ibang klaseng incentives pa dito about the acquisition of equipments for expanded activities. No, meron ding ganyan. Pero, hintayin natin yung final na implementing regulations ng CREATE law at magkaroon po tayo ng separate video to discuss on this benefits. Tsaka lahat na ng implementing guidelines, no? Mahaba-haba yan. And also this 77 as 2021, ito yung sa application for tax treaty benefits, no? Mahaba-haba din yan, procedural. So, ang gagawin natin dyan, we will have a separate video on that. Okay? Hari, shout out.
Opo, wala na pong shoutout, ma'am. Pero
Question.
sabi po ni Rosalina Tuni, ma'am, hopefully daw, ma'am, may actual computation daw para sa enhanced deduction.
Oo. Pagka siguro may IRR na. In a way, madali lang naman siya i-compute, no? Basta may actual tayo. Kasi the records of the expenses will be coming on our actual records. So siguro may mga sample na lang, no? Para how to compute the 50% and the 100%. Sige. Questions?
Wala pa pong question.
Sige. Okay. Ano ba ngayon? Thursday, no? Okay. So, wala po tayong mga questions. I would like to say thank you, no? And I would like to invite yung mga viewers natin para po sa basic transfer pricing bukas, no? It's a good learnings, no? That you know transfer pricing. Kasi, ano na yan yan na yung most important topics in taxation in the international arena, no? So, kasama na rin yan dito sa Pilipinas because if you try to look at, ang daming mga multinational companies na operating po dito sa Pilipinas. So, if you are in practice, no, dapat talaga you should know transfer pricing. Oh? It's just an additional avenue of services that you can offer to your clients. So, with that, I would like to say thank you.
May question, no?
Meron na. Akala ko, magpapa-thank you na sana ako. Sige. Okay.
Galing kay Malu Sintos.
Okay po.
Yung OR po ay na-print ng putol ang business name kasi putol po ang ATP at ang COR kasi daw po ay masyado mahaba ang business name. Pwede po ba gamitin yun kahit putol yung business name? Tama po
Kasi
ang
may
claim.
reason, no, na sobrang haba. Pwede siguro, pero hindi siya putol na pinutol lang talaga because, dahil sa sobrang haba niya. Pwede na din po siguro. Kasi in that case, may reason. Pero makikita naman yan sa COR.
Kung may certificate daw ba bukas mo?
Yes. Yes, Hari. Hindi mo pala linagay? Meron. Kaya nga meron tayong mga evaluation at saka yung poll questions para alam natin na talagang ano sila, present. Mm.
Body nila na ba?
Sige.
Next ma'am, about daw po sa VAT.
Okay.
VAT on withholding tax
Mm.
to the sales to the government.
Okay.
Paano po ang treatment sa 5% at 7% withholding? Deductible po ba sa VAT at sa I-tax, income tax?
Sandali lang. Saan galing yung 7%? Wala mang 7% na withholding. 5% lang po. No? 5% na withholding lang ang para sa VAT. No? Kasi ang para sa income, pwede siyang 1%, pwedeng 2%. Why? Kasi 1% for sale of goods and 2% for sale of services. No? Kaya yan siguro sinasabi mo na naging 7% siya. 2% is creditable to income tax kasi services ka. And then the 5% is creditable to VAT. No? So, doon nyo po i-apply yung 5%. Kasi ang ginagawa pa ng government, isang 2307 lang yan na form. And that 2307 na form, meron siyang withholding for VAT and meron din siyang withholding for income. So do not be confused na ang 5% i-deduct mo sa income, that is not an income tax. That is value-added tax. So doon mo yan sa 2550M and 2550Q, doon mo siya i-deduct. Yung 2% or 1% for income, yun ang i-deduct mo naman sa income tax sa 1702Q or sa 1701Q mo. So, anong gagawin mo dun sa 2307 mo? Magpa-xerox ka ng marami kasi i-attach mo siya sa income tax, i-attach mo pa siya sa withholding tax. That same 2307. No? So, do not be confused kasi dalawa ang withholding dyan. Isang withholding for creditable VAT at saka isang withholding for creditable income tax. Okay.
Ma'am, paano daw po ang recording ng construction business? Sa subsidiary sales journal, ano ang dapat ilagay sa amount? Ano po ba, yun po bang OR na binawasan ng creditable withholding tax or yung nasa billing invoice amount?
Yung OR, bawas na yun ng withholding, di ba? So, pagka ang transaction mo is may withholding, yan ang tawag natin na compound entries, no? So, ano ang compound entries? Doon ka pa rin babalik sa 100%. Why? Kasi compound entries yan eh. Yung debit mo dyan, ilang account. Yung credit mo, posible din ibang account. May withholding tax payable ka dyan. May cash, may ano. So, magtatali po lahat yan. No? So, siguro, kasi sometimes ito yung nakita ko sa mga hari, yung mga nag-question about the OR na ini-issue natin. Ma'am, 5,100 lahat yun. Bakit 5,000 na? Kasi 5,000 na yung check na natanggap namin. So, yung iba, gusto nila, issuean mo ng resibo, kahit hindi mo natanggap, nasa withholding yun. Yung kami, ina-accommodate na rin namin kasi makulit. No? Pero ano dapat, yung nasa check lang yung OR mo. No? Kasi yun lang naman yung cash talaga na natanggap mo eh. All others, compound entry yun. May explanation naman yan doon sa na withholding on expanded withholding yan. So, tali pa rin yan pagdating doon sa recording. So, ano yung sabi mo? Yun nandun sa billing invoice. Pero, pagka ni-record mo naman yung OR, i-record mo rin yung OR mo na yun lang yung cash na natanggap mo. But, of course, that is a compound entry. No? Yung total sales mo talaga dyan is 100%. Kasi halimbawa, yung OR mo is 95,000. Pero yung sales mo is 100,000. No? So, yung sales mo is 100,000. Yung debit cash mo, 95,000. Ano yung, ano mo? Withholding. No? Meron ka doon na withholding which is still an asset. No? Advance tax mo yun. Okay.
Next, ma'am. Galing kay Ma'am Karon G.
Okay.
Ma'am, sa computation po sa estate tax sodan value, kung may minana siya sa parents niya at noong may
Okay.
asawa na lang niya, at noong may asawa na lang niya
Oh.
na i-transfer,
Sa kanya?
conjugal property na po ba
Ay,
yun?
hindi po. Basta tinransfer, minana mo, exclusive property pa rin yan kahit may asawa ka na. No? Kasi ang tinatawag na conjugal property, ito yung napundan nyo during the time na nag-asawa kayo. Pero yung minana, binigay sa iyo by donation or by inheritance, exclusive property po ang tawag dyan. Kahit ilagay mo pa yan doon sa title na married to, exclusive pa rin yan. No? Lagay mo lang yung proof na minana mo yan. That is exclusive property. Pero sa totoong buhay lang, sa tayong mga Pinoy, kahit exclusive property nung babae, manghingi alam pa rin. Hindi ko naman sinabi na lahat, ha? Sorry to say, pero hindi naman po lahat. Kahit exclusive property mo yan, manghingi alam pa rin, no? Kaya, pero kung batas po yung paiiralin natin, hindi na dapat makialam doon yung asawa kasi exclusive property po yan.
Ma'am, sabi niya, bakit daw po sabi ng nag-assist sa kanya, conjugal daw?
Kasi nilagay niya doon na married to. In your part, it's your, the burden is on you to show to the examiner na conjugal yan. At ano ipapakita mo yan? Yung inheritance mo. That you inherit it from your parents. No? Kasi sabihin mo lang na exclusive, nakalagay sa title, married to, talagang i-conjugal yan ng examiner. No? Dapat ready ka to show proof na exclusive property siya. Okay? Wala na? Okay, so I would like to say thank you po sa mga viewers natin and I'm inviting you to attend yung bukas po natin na seminar on basic transfer pricing. No, more tayo diyan sa lecture para maintindihan niyo talaga kung ano yung transfer pricing and you will enjoy, no? Okay, so actually ang dami na po nag-register. So I would like to say thank you doon sa mga nag-register na po. Okay?
91 na ka.
Sige, marami na po yan. Okay. So I would like to say thank you and let's call it a night.